Welcome to this edition of Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin, and today I have the pleasure of being here with Christine Kachinsky, who is the #1 female triathlete in New Jersey. She's a partner at KPMG. She's a wife, a mother, and just everything. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was glad to make it today.
I'm so glad we had a few technical difficulties before we got here, but we're here now. So.
No worries at all. I had a full day of meetings, went right from there, obviously, right to here, and we're here, and thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. So the reason I have you on here is because you came presented at our run club, and I just thought you had some really great things to say, and I wanted to just talk to you personally so that even more people would be able to gain from what you've learned. So let's get right into the whole triathlon, business. First of all, when did you start? Why did you start? I mean, what prompted you to do this?
Sure. So rewind back when I was turning 30 and feeling like I was about to be over the hill, I decided that I needed to continue to challenge myself athletically. I had been playing semi-professional beach volleyball before that, and I injured my shoulder and just didn't come back to the level that I was hoping to. And I needed a new sport and a new challenge. And I started running, and a 5K went to a 10K, and a half marathon and a marathon. And I said, that's fun, but I really would like a new challenge.
Because running 26.2 miles is not challenging.
That was plenty challenging, but that's a long time running. So
right.
I said, well, let's mix things up a little bit.
Okay.
Given that I didn't know how to swim at all, I thought triathlon would give me that challenge that I needed to take the athletic background that I had and channel that energy towards something completely different and give myself a chance to succeed or fail at something entirely new as I was getting old.
At 30, wow, okay. So you obviously didn't start off like doing a full Ironman triathlon. What were the steps that you took to get you to this point?
Sure. So for my 30th birthday year, I spent 8 months training for a sprint triathlon. And I started training in January for an August race. It was the Mrs. T's Chicago Triathlon.
Oh, okay.
And it was a sprint distance triathlon. So that entailed about half-mile swim, 16 mile bike, and a 5K. So 8 months of training for the sprint triathlon that I did in a 2-piece bikini bathing suit, no wetsuit, on my bike that was an old recycled mountain bike, and at least I had a decent pair of running shoes, but that was probably about it.
So you didn't have the requisite wetsuit for, I'm sure you were in Lake Michigan, obviously.
I was in Lake Michigan.
You didn't have the elite bike, not even you had a mountain bike.
I was on a mountain bike,
okay,
yes.
And you had the 2-piece suit as opposed to okay.
Creating its own challenges entirely.
So once you did that, you obviously did well enough where you felt like, this is fun, or what did you feel like after you completed the sprint?
My goal in that race was, three things. Number 1, not to drown. Number 2, hope that my bike didn't break during the race. And number 3, to finish. Okay. And given that I achieved all of those goals, I was ecstatic, and I wasn't last. So I thought, okay, that was the start of some success. And the thing that you'll notice with something like triathlon is once you do one, you really do get addicted, and then you say, okay, well, how can I do a little bit better? Oh, okay. And that's what led to the next one.
Okay. So I want to go back a little bit to when you said you didn't want to drown. So you said you did not know how to swim. So how did you even prepare yourself? You're 30 at this point, and you have to learn how to swim. So what exactly did you do?
Well, I got in the pool, and first I started to just self-coach and
Okay.
read a little bit about swimming, and I had kind of some very basic technique. I'd been swimming in Lake Michigan
Okay.
on my dad's boat growing up as a kid,
Okay.
but you don't really swim. That's kind of
Right.
splashing in the water and maybe jumping on a set of water skis once in a while. Very different. Got in the pool, and first workout was swim one length, walk back to start.
Okay.
And literally that was my first swim session, and I built up to four lengths back and forth.
Okay.
And I thought that was great progress. And really it was very slowly building endurance in the pool with pretty subpar form at the time, but building up enough so that I was actually learning how to get myself propelled through the water. I had a series of coaches over the course of a lot of years, but I will say it took about 13 years before I actually was able to convert my swim from average to actually kind of moving up a few lanes in Masters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that because of the coaching technique? Was it just due to experience? What was it due to?
I had a lot of coaches that were excellent, but I wasn't connecting what I was being told to what I was actually doing in the pool.
Okay.
And that happens with a lot of us, is you hear it and you try it, but it just doesn't quite click. And finally, the game changer in the pool for me was Sheila Taramina's book, Swim Secrets.
Okay.
I brought a copy. She
Wonderful.
was very kind enough to come out and visit us, actually, and do some coaching for us after I called her and said, "You have no idea what you and your book have done for me and my swimming." Wonderful, wonderful lady, actually. Yeah, 3-time Olympic athlete in triathlon. Swimming and pentathlon. So
so she knows what she's talking
She
about.
absolutely does.
Okay.
Her book breaks down the swimming stroke into the critical elements, and I was missing literally 2 out of many of the different subsets of a freestyle stroke. And by the time I read her book and started applying the concepts, I was already, just from reading the book and practicing for a month, taking several seconds off my 100-meter
Really?
split times.
Wow.
And then after some additional coaching from her, I literally went up 3 lanes in Masters and going from a minute 50-second 100 meters to my last Masters swim. I think I averaged 127s.
Wow.
So-
Okay, so this is a big change.
It was a big change, but this just happened in the last year and a half or so. So that was starting from not making it across the pool to actually, now being very comfortable in the water. I'd say I still have work to do, no question, but this book has really helped me, and I think for others that have struggled with the swim, many of us triathletes kind of didn't start as swimmers. So for those of us that don't have the natural technique and weren't growing up with it, I think
That's
this
a great
is a
book to-
really good tool.
Okay. So you have been in a sprint, but now you are, the #1 female triathlete in New Jersey. How did you go from the sprint triathlon to where you are now?
I started gradually adding distances,
Okay.
and over a course of many years, I just found that I was getting more competitive. And when I moved here, we joined a group of riders, and they were called the MAPSO riders, MAPSO being Maplewood South Orange
Okay.
riders.
Okay.
And I was very intimidated because the first ride I did was the Father's Day ride. And as you can imagine, it was all the fathers
Right.
going out for their 100-mile ride on Father's Day.
Wow, that's
and I was
intimidating.
the token female showing up for the very first time. And that day was a game changer. That was my
Really?
second major game changer. So what I did was push myself out of my comfort zone, riding with new people and riding with people that were faster than I was.
Okay.
And my goal, once I got toward the end of that ride, realizing I could finish with the lead group, my goal was to do that every time, or try.
And you were able to do that on the first ride out, like to end up with the first.
Yeah, I think I finished. I think I did finish with the lead guys.
That's
on
phenomenal.
that first ride.
For a Centurion, just going out there and doing
Well,
that?
I had trained up for it, so
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
just show up from
Okay.
0 to 100 miles. But it was a good way to bring myself out of riding at a comfortable pace within myself and needing to stay on a wheel and keep up, or get dropped and get lost.
Got it. Okay.
And then be the token chick who showed up for the Father's Day ride and didn't make it home. That would be terrible.
Didn't even finish. Okay. That would have been terrible.
Yes.
So you basically added a different. So you already had the running down because you were running marathons, and then you did the runs, and you became much better at. You added the swims. You became much better at the swims, and then you added the biking.
I did, but I even the biking again, riding with the MAPSO men, that MAPSO riders. Then eventually we created a MAPSO Tri Club.
Oh, okay.
So I had even more people to ride with, and
Okay.
many women are part of that and ride with us as well. But also during the same time, I found that I could improve my run as well. As good as my run was, it still had room for improvement. And the way I did that was, again, coming out of my comfort zone and doing all my tempo runs or my interval training, my fast running, with a group. So I started running with the South Mountain Runners, who are coached by Bill Haskins, who basically coaches us to run around in circles in the Millburn track at various interval times. And somehow those interval times translate into running a very, very fast race.
Okay.
And running with this group actually was also a game changer in the last couple years for my run, which I think also contributed. So it's really, you can train by yourself and achieve certain goals and slowly improve. But when you train with a group, whether it's a club or a formally coached team, you will get better, because you're going to force yourself into an area that you might not suffer. You may not bring yourself to that level of suffering on your own.
Exactly.
But you'll do it with friends.
Okay. No, that's a great takeaway, because I think a lot of people have a tendency to think, well, I can do all of these, especially if you're thinking about doing a triathlon, anything like that. Mm-hmm. They have a tendency to think, I can just do it. I can go out and run a little bit, do a few laps, mm-hmm. In the pool, and then ride a few miles. But it, like you said, it isn't until you're actually challenged by a larger group of people that really gets you to the point you want to be. And I'm sure that you feel like, as you said a little earlier, you feel like you can improve in some areas as well.
Well, that's true. And think about the runs that you do with the Lifetime Fitness Run Group. You're not going to leave the middle of that run and go home. Because you're just a little tired.
Right.
If you've got the peer pressure of 15 people running alongside of you, and you've got to make it to a destination, right?
Exactly. So that's great. So I know we have probably just a few minutes before we break. So I want you to tell us a little bit about, we're going to talk more about your triathlon, but can you tell us about what's up here?
Sure.
Other than the biggest medal I've ever seen personally.
Yes, this is the favorite thing that I have in my house right now, besides my son and my husband, of course.
Of course, yes.
This is my medal and my trophy from the Ironman World Championships.
Okay.
Competed in the Ironman World Championships in October of 2013.
Okay.
And basically that consists of a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a 26.2-mile run. Okay. And to get there, it is a world championship event that you essentially get to by winning or coming in the top couple of your age group in a qualifying Ironman race. So fortunately, this was my third consecutive year in Kona for the Ironman World Championships, and in this case, third time was a charm because I did just make it onto the podium, and I took fifth in the world in my age category. So this is what I got to enjoy, and I look at it, both of these things, every day.
I would look at these every day, several times a day. We're going to be right back, and we're going to continue on the other side of the break and talk more about what got you to where you are today. So this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Local government, local educational institutions, and local community members all use cable access TV to communicate their message. They depend upon it as an affordable means of outreach. Public educational and government access television empowers local government agencies, individuals, and groups to use the media to speak directly to their constituents in a more direct and cost-effective way. Make sure everyone has a voice. Support your local PEG channels.
and welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am Dustin, and I'm still here with Christine Kachinsky, who is the number one, I like to say this, the number one female triathlete in New Jersey.
I don't mind hearing it, it's fun.
And so when we left, you were telling us about the medals and everything that and how you got them in Kona. But now I'd like to turn the conversation a little bit and talk about how practical, like you said, you just came here from work, and I know there are a lot of people who will be watching this and who will think, well, that's great. She probably has it down pat. How are you able to balance everything?
Sure. So,
because you're a partner too, I should mention, at KPMG, so it's you have a lot of responsibilities.
That is very true, and I take that just as seriously, if not more, than my triathlon success. So, I truly believe that you can be a high performer both at work and in life, and you can set goals that allow both your work life and your home life to coincide and run in parallel. I set very high aggressive goals for my practice and my team at work. I was right there with them, and we achieved all of our goals last year, despite the fact that I was training and racing Ironman. And so I think both can be done, but it takes some thought and some planning. So I have a series of tips that I wanted to share with your viewers so that we've got some tangible takeaways. So when we think about what it takes to be a high performer both at work and in life, and not have your husband leave you or your son tell you you're an inadequate mother, a lot of things have to come together. And so here are some things that I do and that I find that work. First of all, plan your weekly calendar. You'll set your overall training calendar. You'll hopefully be able to align that in big picture with major events that you have at work, major things perhaps that are going on with your family, things like weddings and other things that you have to plan around. So take a big picture snapshot of your year and think about the critical milestones, deadlines, and/or important events that otherwise are going to be taking up some of your time. And just know that that's got to get built in at a macro level. Okay. Then get very granular. Every week you need to write your weekly calendar. And by that I mean you want to get your calendar blocked. And I use the same calendar that I schedule my work meetings, my PTA meetings, my parent-teacher conferences, and my triathlon training schedule. Really? It all goes into Microsoft Outlook. Okay. And my administrative assistant has access to my calendar at all times, and she knows 5 to 7 a.m. are always blocked. And that's workout time. Actually, when we get really into Ironman season, that 5 o'clock becomes 4 o'clock. But that's okay. But for most people, 5 to 7 a.m., blocking your calendar, but then very thoughtfully scheduling what that workout is going to be every day, that takes the guesswork out. You don't wake up thinking, what am I going to roll out of bed and do today? If you know exactly what you're going to do because you pick up your phone and it tells you exactly what you're going to do when you roll out of bed, you don't have to think about it. You know you're either jumping on your bike, jumping in the pool, or putting on your shoes and running out the door. And how do you determine to that level, how do you determine what you're going to be doing? Are you going to be jumping into the pool? Sure. Or whatever, how do you determine that? Well, that goes to another tip. So plan very thoughtful and purposeful workouts. And I try and use a rule of thumb that I need 3 types of workouts in each discipline in my weekly calendar. The first workout is a form or technique workout, and that may also satisfy a need to recover from a tough day. Okay. So form and technique is one type of workout that I'll build in. Second type of workout is my interval workouts, my tempo workouts, my speed training, so the fast stuff. Okay. That's workout number 2. Workout number 3 is my endurance workout, and that's where I'm adding longer and longer distances each week that I do that. And the workout is built in generally 4-week cycles, where for 3 weeks you build up, for 1 week you recover, and then you do it all over again, building incrementally. So that's sort of a focused calendar. Okay. And again, everything happens in the morning, and very, very important, you must be starting your workout or almost done with your workout by the time your children are waking up. Because I will guarantee you that if one of them wanders in and you're not out the door yet, and says, well, can you have breakfast with me? Or I'm chilly. Can you wrap me in a blanket and sit on the couch? That is really, really hard to pull yourself away and get out the door and do the workout. So you really have to be disciplined and get out. If it's, oh, I'm going to sleep in that extra hour, you really put yourself at risk of not quite making it out the door. So that's important. Some days you might have a meeting. So you think, oh, I have a very busy day. Should I skip my workout? Don't skip, multitask. And by that, you can actually get through your workout at the same time you're, in your mind, getting prepared for that difficult conversation, that big client presentation or whatever it is. I have some business-related books that I download onto my iPod, and some of those I listen to in a long swim, because I can put my iPod in the pool, believe it or not.
Very nice.
Or on a long run. I usually don't use that on my bicycle, but there are ways you can be productive and thoughtful and purposeful in your workout and plan ahead as it relates to your work day as well.
Okay, and that doesn't distract you when you're listening to something while you're swimming?
Well, it depends. So maybe that's your long endurance swim where you are going a long way with minimal breaks and that you need something to keep yourself occupied while you're doing that. And mind you, there's so much technology now. You can be watching your pace on your Garmin 910 XT. You can be following, I have an endless pool actually in my basement, and I just set that on a certain speed, and if I don't keep up, the thing spits me out and I hit the wall in the back.
Oh, that's too funny. Okay. Wow. Wow.
So there are ways to do it. Sleep is important.
I'm so glad you mentioned. I was about to ask you about that. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's okay. If you've got a late night, that getting up early is sometimes counterproductive. So think about, you might need to flex your weekly calendar. If you know you've got, say, a client dinner on a certain night, don't plan to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning if you know that you're out until midnight the night before, because you likely will not have a good workout, or later on that could catch up to you in the form of overall fatigue and injury. So keep that in mind too when you're planning your schedule.
So for people who are watching who would think, well, I'm going to bed at midnight, but I need to get up at 5 in order to go on the run with the group, you would say it's perfectly fine just to sleep in, just because it's probably better for you to have adequate sleep as opposed to just being tired, or do you work through it, or how do you?
I think you've got to plan that week. So if you know you've got a bunch of critical workouts, you probably want to try and avoid multiple nights in a row of late nights. And again, when I said to plan your macro calendar, if you know you've got a series of events that are going to keep you out late for a week, well, build that into the overall macro calendar. Maybe that becomes the recovery week of that 4-week training block that I talked about. So don't sleep in and give up your workout entirely unless you've planned for that in advance.
Got it. Okay. So you're making sure that every moment that you have, whether it's on the bike or at work or with your family, is like all quality. Like you're very focused on making sure that everything is quality, and it's just not like, well, you're there physically but not, completely there.
I try. I gotta say that it's always not together 100% of the time. If it were, I think I'd not be in 5th place in the world. It might have achieved a different result. But that's the goal. I mean, really trying to be efficient and organized with the day is important.
Okay. So I know we have probably just a few minutes left, but I certainly wanted to get to one of the things that we always talk about as far as the Run Club is when you have to push through those runs or just those workouts during darkness. What do you do? How do you get through those?
Sure.
Through that workout.
So the last kind of key takeaway that I'd like to leave with your viewers is this. You can train and you can work really hard. If you're trying to set a personal best or get on the podium at a race, you've got to be able to find what's going to drive you to that position. And there are a few key things you can think about when you hit a really difficult part of a race or a difficult stage in your training. And that's really, dealing with the darkness, pushing through and fighting through that challenge that you're working through. So a few key tips. First of all, if you're in a race or in a critical training block, assess your situation. Are you hurting because you might have an injury starting, or are you just really, really uncomfortable? Okay. Know your body and be able to tell the difference, because the worst advice I could give you would be, whatever it is, push through, because certainly, especially as we're all, competing as adults, it is easier to get injured, so you have to be in tune with what's going on with yourself. Okay. So know that, and if you're in a race, you can push through extreme discomfort, but make sure that you know that you're not dealing with an injury. Okay. The second tip is, if you are in a race and you're trying to get to the end, but you see a long way ahead and you're in this dark place, subdivide the remainder of the race into sections. So if I'm on the final marathon and I'm just starting the marathon thinking I have to run a marathon now to finish this Ironman, that's a daunting task. But if instead I break it down and say I just need to make it to the next aid station where I'm going to feel better because I get a cold sponge and a sip of Coke and a splash of water, then that's a very different set of milestones and goals. So that might be helpful. Think about the fact, too, that it's all relative. Everyone feels terrible at that point in the race. Whether you're doing a sprint, because everyone is redlining, and sprints hurt a lot. I did a lot of sprints and shorter distance racing this year to get faster for Ironman, and had a lot of fun with it. But man, those shorter races hurt. They hurt a lot. Okay. But you have to know everybody is in the same boat, and just knowing that, you sort of get a little bit of comfort and can push through. Okay. Trust your training. Make sure that you did those workouts that were really hard, those extra 100-mile rides, the all-day ride and run combination where you finished and literally couldn't move from the couch for like 2 days later. Trust in your training and know that you did that for a reason, and know that that's going to come back and reward you and help you push through that difficult spot. Okay. And then finally, remember the sacrifices that you made and that your family made for you to be at that event or be at that place in your training where you're getting ready for that big event, and make those sacrifices worth it, and never, ever be in a position to look back and think, I did not give it my best. Because you don't want to let yourself down, as well as the people down that were supporting you. And you'll find that by holding yourself accountable, not just to yourself, but to the goals you set and maybe communicated with those others, that's going to push you that extra step and get you to find that little bit extra to dig deep and push just that much harder.
Wow, those were all wonderful tips. Thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations once again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.